Hey guys, happy Friday, maybe? Yeah, happy Friday. So, did you guys get a lot of snow? We got way too much. I mean, just too much. Okay, so we're gonna go back into, I don't know, we're almost to 100, part 100. I've never done this long of a series of anything in my entire freaking YouTube, whatever. So, synagogues of Satan. What a nice way to start a Friday. This is really interesting stuff. So, all right, this is about all the Cathars and everything that's going on with them. All right, now after Constantine's edict of Milan effectively anathemized all forms of Christianity other than the new Roman Church. So heretics such as the Grecians persisted in following their consciences with either enormous courage or foolhardiness, amounting to insanity. Oh, wow, okay, we're insane now. Now, depending upon the extent of one's sympathy for martyrdom, anyways, most of them were wiped out swiftly and mercilessly. Yeah, so that's pretty sad. But as the years progressed, certain this is a weird word. I've never heard this word in my entire life. Heterodox beliefs succeeded in simmering away by their very existence, nibbling at the security and the complacency of Rome. So perhaps it is no coincidence that these evils usually involve some reverence for the feminine, provoking Peter's organization to a wrath that echoes in infamy to this day. So they're still on it with the whole feminine and trying to get rid of the feminine and trying to, kind of just get it under the rug, and it's never going to happen. Now, in particular, one area was to prove a persistent headache for the Pope. Good. The south of France, the area largely encompassed by the Languedoc and Provence. I probably really screwed that up. Pockmarked and with caves, its high blue skies riven by the sharp perils of snow-topped mountains. So it is a beautiful but unforgiving landscape, which in the Middle Ages provided a safe haven for many with less than orthodox religious views, such as the Cathars, whose meetings were known to the church as literally synagogues of Satan. The Cathars, I kind of like what they did a little bit. So as Jean Margale comments in his Montsegur, what the hell did I write? Monsignor, my God, and the Mystery of the Cathars, 1986, in the caves, quote, there are devils that hold their Sabbaths there in the company of witches. Really. These are the only beings who have no fear of entering such places. Caves represent, obviously, well, to this guy, the forbidden world. So literally, no, caves are the underworld. So that's the place where you're literally in between everything. So, and consequently, it's also an alluring world. So whether these were really witches in those caves is honestly, it's totally not even the point at all. So the land as a whole already had a reputation for paganism and herstory even before the terrible events of the 13th century. But after that time, it was nothing less than the land of Satan to the church. Why are they so obsessed with everything being of Satan? So this was where, in the 12th and 13th centuries, there arose a Christian cult whose members, although known as les benchomes, good men or good people, to the locals, were in the eyes of Rome Luciferians. So the successors to the Gnostic, I don't even know what I write there, pretty much the Gospels or the teachings of Bulgaria, Now, the Cathars, meaning pure, attempted to reinvent what they perceived to be the simple lifestyle and worship instigated by Christ, renouncing the church as the corrupt whore of Babylon. That makes sense. The church being the whore of Babylon. I mean, that does make sense. Together with all its panoply and hierarchy. So they eschewed the use of specially dedicated church buildings, choosing to worship in the open or in private houses. After all, Christ neither built churches nor exhorted his followers to do so, and adopted an ascetic lifestyle, eating a simple fishertarian diet, and even sparingly of that. So, okay, these people went off on their own and they decided that they didn't want church. They didn't want to go to church to worship God. You don't have to. It's stupidity. Church, that's all it is. It's stone, wood, glass. It's not even, no. Now, they aim to become perfecti, or perfects, which means perfects, men and women who have renounced all earthly pleasures. Now, this is the psychotic part. They totally denounce all earthly pleasures, including the sex, procreation being especially abominable to them because it prolonged the soul's contact with the hated material world. So, yeah, it was an abomination to procreate. So they're taking it a little bit far. Now, as Gnostics, the Cathars truly abominated the physical realm, and this is where most modern readers will part company with them, except for the woolly-minded New Agers who tend to pretty much venerate them as a species of cozy fellow travelers. So yeah, I don't know too much. I don't know if I agree with the Cathars. I do with some of them, but not all of the beliefs or anything like that. But now high-minded and essentially decent, though the heretics undoubtedly were in a society riddled with the most heinous corruption and hypocrisy. Of course they were. So they both took their hatred for earthly existence to ultimately, what did I write? Distaste, or I don't know what I wrote there. Ultimately, pretty much, I mean, they took it to the extremes. Basically, they institutionalized anorexia in the form of the endura, a slow fast to the death. Really? No, thank you. I love my food. I want my food. Now I want KFC. Thank you, Cathars. Now, when they believed, well, which they believed was almost as good as death, as martyrdom, although very soon they were to have ample opportunity to indulge their longing for the latter mode of transition to the spiritual realm. So they tried to extremes, starving themselves to death and then expecting to be risen up. I think that's really scary. I mean, really scary. Now, without a good death, the Cathars believed that they were condemned to be reborn until they could be martyred and then escape finally to the realms of pure spirit and light. Now, of course, relatively few Cathars make the grade as perfects. Their ranks and title, the credenti, which means believers, developed their own peculiar version of righteousness. Some preferred sex outside marriage. These people are insane. For example, because then they were only committing the single sin of intercourse rather than the two sins of intercourse and probably procreation. So yeah, they thought that, sex and then having babies was both a sin. So now, as Markel notes, to the Cathar, to sin was to submit to the world. There was no distinction between venial, and mortal sins. All sins were mortal. Every sexual union involved the flesh and ran the risk of prolonging Satan's work indefinitely. All right. Oh my God. They made no distinction between legitimate and illegal unions, free love, homosexuality, adultery, incest, or even bestiality. Wow. Okay, so that's a little, introduction to the Cathars. So we will leave off there. we will definitely leave off there. And I definitely want to go back into that at a later time. I cannot believe that those people, I mean, everything to them was evil, demonic, I mean, all of it. So it's crazy. All right, let's do some coffee talk and see what's going on. The book is not done quite yet. I did